Lloyd Howell removed, forced out. They won't say fired, but everybody is of the opinion he was terminated. He was the executive director of the Players Association. The deeper the media has dug into the story, the more dirt they've found out about Lloyd Howell. To me, the biggest issue is there was a charge of collusion that an arbitrator evaluated, and he provided information that he felt Roger Goodell told the management council, and the management council told the owners, do not give players, notably quarterbacks, guaranteed contracts. This is after Cleveland guaranteed the $230 million deal for Deshaun Watson. That information filtered down and got back to the players. A grievance was filed. The arbitrator said it looks like there's evidence that there was collusion. Lloyd Howell was at that meeting when the arbitrator handed over the 61-page decision. Lloyd Howell did not inform the 32 player reps, his executive committee, that this is what the arbitrator has indicated happened. He made a confidential agreement with Roger Goodell. They would protect the information and lock it away. How do you represent all these players and you don't inform your executive committee, a player rep from every team, what's gone on in that meeting? That's item one. Second item was misappropriation of union funds. Him and other people going to strip clubs and taking airline flights and charging the union that. There was a whole bunch of
clubs.
Hamburgers are always good there, though. That's what you told me at one time.
Yeah.
Really seedy stuff. Now we found out this morning the guy that headed up the search committee that hired Lloyd Howell, former player J.C. Treader, he was forced out in the early hours this morning. He's an accomplice to Lloyd Howell. How did he not know about all the background junk that Howell was involved in, conflict of interest and some other stuff in other industries? So this turns out to be a bad look for the union and its leadership as they're going into collective bargaining with NFL ownership. So this story is far from over. So we got that. We're waiting for the NFL to drop the hammer, and they should, on a Kansas City Chief player and Minnesota Vikings player. Rashee Rice plea bargained out of 8 felonies in a drag racing incident that caused wrecks and injured 8 people. Rashee Rice plea bargained it down. All he got out of it was a 30-day jail sentence. I thought that was a crap plea bargain. He deserved to serve significant time in jail because he and a friend of his drag racing ran into 3 other cars in a Dallas freeway a year ago, injured a whole bunch of people, and left the scene of the accident while people were lying on the pavement injured. To me, that's hideous. Well, now the NFL can take discipline because the case is run the judicious process. I would hope Rice gets a 4-game suspension because this was a real serious set of circumstances. The other one is Minnesota wide receiver Jordan Addison. He's a kid from USC. A year ago, he was arrested for doing 140 miles an hour on a highway outside Minnesota, right around training camp. Nothing ever happened. League never took any discipline action. Then he got arrested this offseason on a DUI case. He's plea bargained down the DUI case, paid a fine, etc. The league needs to crack on this guy. Whether it's a 1-game suspension, 2-game suspension, he needs to be disciplined. The third one, third row down, Washington Commanders. Your president. He doesn't have enough trouble that he's created. Now he's stepped across the street into the National Football League, and Trump is mandating the owner of the Washington Commanders, Josh Harris, change the name of the team immediately and change the logo back to the Washington Redskins. And Trump, in typical Trump fashion, is threatening everything. Now he's threatening to block all federal money and Washington, D.C. money, which has already been agreed upon to build a new stadium for the NFL franchise. Trump should just write another executive order. It'd be out of the norm, like all the other executive orders out of the norm that he's violated the Constitution on. Anyhow, so Trump's in the Washington Commanders doghouse. Cincinnati. I've heard a lot of stupid things. What happened this morning in Cincinnati is beyond stupid. Mike Brown, the owner of the Bengals, he's in contract disputes with his unsigned number 1 draft pick and with his star defensive end. The big issue with the draft pick out of Texas A&M is Mike Brown has tried to change the language in the rookie contract about contract guarantees. Rookie contract is if you don't play well your first year, if you get cut, nobody cuts number one picks after the first year. But if you get cut, you get a chunk of the guarantees that are in the second year, third year, fourth year. Mike Brown wants all that wiped out. So Mike Brown at a press conference today, it's the only time he's spoken, Mike Brown says, well, we're putting these clauses into our new contracts with all the rookies in case some of them get sent to prison. We don't want to be on the hook for all their contracts if they're sent to prison.
Oh, God.
You've got to be kidding me. If the guy's in trouble with the law, he goes on the commissioner's exempt list, he can lose his contract. If he goes to prison, his contract's terminated. Just ask Henry Rugg, the Raider wide receiver that was involved in a drunk driving homicide, who's still in prison, lost his career, lost all of his bonus money, etc. What is Mike Brown talking about? And then Mike Brown reiterates about the contract dispute with Trey Hendrickson. Hendrickson's got 1 year left on his contract. He's grossly underpaid. And Mike Brown says he should be happy he owes us a year. He owes us a year because he's getting paid $15 million. The guy on the market is probably worth $25 million or $30 million because that's what all the other elite pass rushers led by T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett are getting. And Mike Brown is saying you should be happy. Now the report over the weekend is the Bengals made Trey Hendrickson a new offer, a 1 year extension. Well, everybody else is getting 4 years and getting 30 to 40 million per because they're a superstar. The Bengals are trying to get this guy to play for $15 million and then make him a 1 year additional offer and just bump it up one time to $20 million. If I'm Trey Hendrickson, there's no solution to the situation because Mike Brown is perennially cheap. Trey Hendrickson says, you want to end this holdout? You put a new clause in my contract. I am a free agent at the end of the year, and you cannot franchise tag me because I don't want to be here any longer.
Wow.
That's how you fight fire with fire. I've heard a lot of stupid things Mike Brown say. My number one draft pick, if he goes to prison, I don't want to be in the hook for the bonus. My God. So that's the latest from the Bengals. We'll also talk just about briefly about some other things. Cleveland Browns, one of their draft picks, and they expected a lot out of this kid. Running back Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State, second-round pick, told not to come to camp. He's under investigation, charges, domestic abuse, strangling his and beating his girlfriend.
Oh, God.
Browns have not signed him to a contract. Browns have now told him, you're not welcome in this camp at this point in time. And Tennessee Titans, they have lost Will Levis, their quarterback. I don't know why he was not operated on right at the end of the season. He had shoulder problems all last year. They determined this morning, surgery, gone for the year. Eisen played real well. He's got 21 touchdowns in a year and a half as a starter with the Tennessee Titans. He's got 17 interceptions. He's got 17 lost fumbles in a year and a half. They did draft Cam Ward. Cam Ward, the job is yours. And one other note, Von Miller has a new mailing address. Guy's got 129 quarterback sacks. Von Miller, ex-Denver Bronco, former Buffalo Bill, signs with the Washington Commanders. 1 year deal, 10 to 12 million if he has a banner season. Pretty good 1 year rental. Got a lot of miles on him. Had some injury problems, but they still think gas left in the tank. Like I said, we're into NFL training camps. This is going to be the headquarters for you to get all your NFL information, good, bad, and ugly. John, what's the responsibility head of the Players Association? You want to talk about your president? Go ahead and talk about any of the other names we talked about.
Well, those are the two stories I wanted to comment on. Okay, let's just start with the juicy one with Trump and the Redskins name and everything else. Okay, first of all, get the freaking government out of football. I mean, they just deregulate the NFL here. This is nonsense. What this is just, I mean, Trump really doesn't care about what the NFL team name is. He's just pushing buttons to fire up his base and to create more distractions so we're not focused on all this Epstein stuff and everything else. And so this is all smoke screens and everything else. But really, I mean, the Redskin name, I mean, come on. I mean, even if the nations like the name, come on, this is supposed to be, content of character over color of skin, and so, and again, this is just such a nonsense BS shiny object story meant to distract. But But anyways, going back to the Players Association, and we're talking about the collusion. It was what the Arizona owner or the LA owner were talking.
Spanos and Bidwell congratulated each other about the Kyler Murray contract. There's so much smoking gun paper evidence about collusion. This is going to wind up. There's going to be a refiling by the union. And all I know is that when baseball had collusion in the Jack Morris Detroit Tiger case, it cost baseball's owners $220 million in damages. There's 594 players that were involved on the citation that we think there's collusion going on. And now the arbitrator said, yeah, Goodell told the management council to tell Spanos and Bidwell and every other owner, do not give out guaranteed contracts. And now we find out that Spanos compared contractual notes when Bidwell re-signed his quarterback without the guarantee. That I didn't go to law school. I know you did. That sounds like collusion to me.
But it's only 2 owners. I mean, there's 32 teams, right? So if you're saying all 32 owners had this secret handshake agreement and they're in a back room with cigars twirling their mustache and figuring out how to get this, collusion down, you got a point. But even if, let's just say hypothetically, half the teams had kind of had this wink agreement on keeping salaries down, that gives the other half of the teams a huge advantage.
But when nobody signs anybody,
but that's not happening in the NFL. Well, it's happening to Trey Hendrickson because the Bengals are just idiots. But you were seeing gigantic contracts being handed out in the NFL.
But it's not all guaranteed.
Well,
none of the quarterbacks got guarantees.
Yeah, but think about that. Seriously, think about guaranteed deals. That is a sweet, sweet thing.
Sure.
I mean, baseball's got it because the baseball owners or the baseball union is so damn powerful. But, it sounds harsh, but if you sign a guy to like a 6-year contract, he gets hurt year 1 and his career's over, you shouldn't be on the hook to have to pay him for the remaining 5 years. I mean, obviously there should be some compensation, for being injured and his career being done, but it's almost like the contract shouldn't apply.
But you can't collude. Article 17 of the collective bargaining agreement. You cannot share information team to team, contract to contract, and you can't collude to hold the prices down.
But the players collude amongst themselves. The agents collude amongst themselves. They can compare notes and compare how much they're being offered, but the owners can't. It's a double standard.
You're big on capitalism. Now you're big on collusion.
I want a free market. I want to let these guys negotiate. And like I said, if a few of those Spanos and Bidwell are idiots. Okay. And if they're the ones colluding, they're the ones that are going to continue to screw over their franchise. Let the other owners, the smart ones, go get the good talent and be willing to pay for it.
Okay. You want to talk about any of the other topics, or have you spent all your venom? You want to talk about Kansas City and the Minnesota receivers, what should happen with the NFL with those characters?
You just think of young guys, they're king of the world. They got this big contract. They go out and buy a fast car and they're out with their buddies.
2 Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
That's what they were racing in. They crashed into 3 other cars and then walked away from the people who got hurt, who were laying on the pavement.
Yeah. I mean, that's clearly wrong, especially hit and run or some version of that. Yeah. But it's just, you can understand. Now, I'm not condoning it, but you can see how it happens, with kids that maybe never had money that suddenly do, and they're kind of just being dumb, 22-year-olds or 21-year-olds. I mean, it's awful. But the NFL rightfully should crack down on this because, and I assume there's some kind of a clause that's standard boilerplate for all players. But if you're in trouble with the law, or if you're in jail, I mean, the NFL doesn't want to be representing players like that. I mean, in any private company, if one of the employees is thrown in jail, they're not still getting paid.
Well, we'll wait to see if they drop the hammer on these guys. Sorry to be the bearer of all this controversial news, but it's out there. We got to cover it. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to give you the chance to respond. Any and all, feel free. Fans Forum chat box is open for business.